Hello, you're very welcome along to week 9 of the NFL and the Matchbook betting podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, and you may see we have a new guest this week, so I'll lead straight into it. It's Brad Allen. Brad, we were only talking off air that you were in version 1 of the Matchbook betting podcast, so welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back after 5 years, whatever it's been. I mean, I still tune in every week, so I feel like I've barely been away.
Oh, he'll be ready to counter some points there. Suma, how are you keeping?
Everything all right, man. Enjoying the time change this week.
Yeah, Suma can't get over the time change here. It's good for UK and Ireland viewers. Last week we had the 5 p.m. red zone games. And I got a bit of the first half of a Sunday night football as well. So couldn't complain. But the clocks do go back. So it all goes back to normal next week anyway. So that's it really on the time. Drew, tell us where you're tuning in from for the listeners that can't see where you are.
Oh, just doing some travel for work right now. It's been crazy. The entire fall so far. It's been I've just had a whirlwind at the Long Beach airport now, but excited to talk some NFL with you guys.
Right, let's get straight into it. For those that are listening on the podcast, do follow us on your preferred podcast app. And if you are on YouTube watching the live stream, do get your comments and get involved with the show. And if you're watching back the live stream, do comment your best bet or any thoughts on the guys' best bets. And what we're going to do, normally this time of the show, we do week 8 takeaways, but we're going to maybe cover a little bit of the outright markets and the Super Bowl, see what the guys are saying. Not necessarily bets they're putting up, but just leans or who's potentially a team to watch over the next few weeks as we're almost at the halfway stage. So Suma, I'll kick off with you and the team you're watching at the moment. They're currently 17.5 with Matchbook for the Super Bowl. Are the Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, I think the Dallas Cowboys are a very intriguing option in the outright market right now because coming out of their bye week, they will be largely healthy on both sides of the ball. They have a very good defense with a stout pass rush. They can be beaten in the run game, but you can control that somehow with your own offense in terms of game script. The offense with Dak Prescott looked really good. And what I really liked about it is that with Cooper Rush in the lineup, the Cowboys called a different version of their offense. More play action, more easy stuff. And now with Dak Prescott over the past 2 weeks, I think Prescott ranks second in play action rate at 48%. So they're really starting to tweak some things on offense. Don't know how the touch rate for Tony Pollard will be going forward with Zeke back in the lineup. But overall, I think they really look good on both sides of the ball. And I think they are in one tier with the Eagles right now at the top of the NFC. I think after that, we can probably make a case about how large the gap will be to the other teams. But I think right now the Cowboys look very, very real in the NFC. And there will be at some point a game against the Eagles that could have something to do with the NFC playoff picture.
Interesting shout there. Brad, the team that you're keeping an eye on that you expect to make the playoffs, and we will get into a lot more about the Seahawks and Pete Carroll in the game, but it is the Seahawks. They've surprised everybody after that rocky start. They kind of lived up to the preseason people that were writing them off, particularly the defense, but they've been absolutely unbelievable these last few weeks.
They look a pretty well-rounded team. Geno Smith, third graded passer by PFF. Defense coming along, which we'll get to in a minute. You can still get them odds against to make the playoffs. 2.3 was around earlier this week at a couple of sites. I haven't checked today, but I'm assuming it's still there. I mean, and you just go look at Football Outsiders. They've got them at 72% to make the playoffs. So, I mean, there's a pretty chunky edge right there. And I think a lot of that is just the schedule. They've got the 26th easiest schedule going forward. And as I say, I think they're a pretty well-rounded team, which we'll get into a bit more. So, odds against 2.3 to make the playoffs looks fruity to me.
Yeah, the last few weeks they've been known as Drew's Seahawks, and I've seen he's taken that into the Twitter sphere as well. But Drew, it's another team in the NFC West that you're keeping an eye on, and it's the 49ers with a lot of injuries still to come back. They definitely look like a team that can actually go all the way in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I mean, in the AFC, you can basically scratch off any long shot because you're going to get a better odds on. You're going to get better just rolling them over if you think that they can go into Buffalo and win. If you think they can go into KC and win, every other team is going to be 7-point dogs. So I think realistically, you have to shop for futures in the NFC right now if you're looking for that. And as you look at the top, it is now all of a sudden a kind of a mess of inexperienced quarterbacks. And I still think very, very highly about how important experience is at the quarterback position when it comes to playoff time. And if guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and Matt Stafford aren't going to be in the mix, when the playoffs get here, then, I think you have to look for a team like San Francisco, who has a Jimmy Garoppolo and, a very strong team around him, as the potential kind of maybe even should be considered closer to the favorites. I know that Philly with home field advantage is going to be a tough place to go and play. But like the idea of last year with Joe Burrow kind of succeeding in his first ever playoff run, or when Nick Foles took the Eagles to a Super Bowl win, a handful of years ago, like that's the exception, not the rule. And I would be more inclined to expect that the experience of a guy like Garoppolo will kind of win the day if he doesn't have to go through the likes of Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. And I think kind of final point there, even if Seattle, even if the Niners can't catch the mighty Seahawks and win the NFC West, they do still have like recent history of showing they can go on the road and get it done, in hostile environments. And I think that means a lot. So Niners for me are the look just based on QB experience.
Yeah, so Seahawks currently 5-3, the 49ers 4-4. So fascinating battle in the NFC West. And of course, you can't rule out the Rams, albeit they've been in pretty brutal form, as we'll find out when we preview their game. But just a couple of comments about PJ Walker, and there's some rumors going around that PJ Walker has gotten Rob Pasella fired from this podcast. That isn't true. Rob will be back next week. He's on vacation. But surprisingly, PJ Walker, he has popped up in a few YouTube live streams, not just the Matchbook ones, but there's no sign of him yet here. Maybe when we get to the Panthers game, there's someone is siding with the Panthers this week. We might get to him there. But yeah, fascinating stuff. The YouTube comments, keep them coming in. We'll go straight to the 4 marquee games we'll be covering. It's the Seahawks at the Cardinals first that we're going to cover, and we'll take a look at the betting as we have it on matchbook.com. You can currently back the Seahawks at 2.14, the Cardinals at 1.82. This point spread gives the Seahawks a 2-point head start at 1.95, and the total is 49.0, and that's slightly shaded towards the over. So we'll go to you on this one, Brad. You've got an interesting play here involving the Seahawks. Talk to me a little bit about this and the potentially a first half choice.
Yeah, I mean, this is all about the scripted plays, with Seahawks top 5 in the NFL, and Cardinals bottom 10 in the NFL in scoring on scripted plays. I mean, it was an angle that worked the first time these two played, and it is basically down to coaching. I think where Shane Waldron comes from the Shanahan, the McVay offense, where they like to script the first 15 to 20 plays, and all those teams are generally successful with that. Whereas Cliff Kingsbury, I think the Cardinals are a much better team when he just hands it over to Kyler and lets him go around and make something happen. And I kind of like the Seahawks side in the full game as well. One of the things that I was looking at was the so Murray with Hopkins back. They've gone from 26th in EPA per play up to 10th, which I think has got some people buying that the offense has improved. But a lot of that was half of that was against the Saints team that was down their 3 top corners. They came into that game with Lattimore and Paulson Adebo out, and then Bradley Roby went out in the first quarter, I think, of that game. So I'm not giving them too much credit there. And then the Vikings last week are another sort of bottom 10 pass coverage unit. And I don't think that's what you're getting with the Seahawks. Pop quiz: which defense leads the NFL in success rate allowed over the last 3 weeks? Answer: it's the Seattle Seahawks. So
there you go.
Yeah,
Super Seahawks.
Yeah, and obviously it's not against elite offenses. I think it's the Chargers, the Cardinals, and the Giants, but they're not the worst offenses in the league. They're solid offenses. And there was some talk about changing the way that the Seattle defense was playing, a little bit away from the sort of Rams style gap and a half, just sort of get upfield, but also play the run, towards a more penetrating style, just go get the quarterback, which may be paying dividends. So yeah, I think we've probably got the better offense and defense in this game on the Seattle side.
Yeah, interesting play there. So Brad's kind of looking at that first half, but potentially he likes the money line, Drew, which you're sticking with. You're staying loyal to your Seahawks. I guess it's probably as the weeks go on, the value in back of them maybe diminishes a little bit, but there's still value. There could still be value necessarily.
Yeah, you got it, man. Don't try to fix what's not broken. I loved all of Brad's points, particularly with respect to the defense improving. If you break up the season into quarters, the second quarter of the season, the Seattle defense was top 3 in EPA per play allowed, which is incredible. And I think you can give a lot of that credit to Pete Carroll, a guy who I've been massively critical of for going on 4 years. He has a skill that he really brings in spades, and that is his ability to work with the young defensive personnel, particularly the cornerbacks, on a player and coach level, and coach those guys up and get the absolute most development out of those players. And you're seeing it manifest this year with the young cornerbacks performing at defensive rookie of the year level, even though they were drafted in the later rounds, and it's awesome to watch. And I gotta think that the improvement you saw between the first quarter of the season and the second quarter of the season for that defense continues to trend up. There's even beyond the stuff that Brad mentioned, there are a lot of whiffs of just things aren't right in Arizona. There's not a lot of heart in that team. There's not a lot of we're going to work together. We're going to fix this. We're going to turn this around. Kyler Murray, very, very concerned about his relationship with Cliff Kingsbury and whether that has deteriorated to the point that he exercises his, power and forces Cliff out because he's owed a lot more guaranteed money than Cliff is, surely. I think realistically, this is I'm going to be watching pretty carefully to see how willing and interested Kyler Murray is in running the football in the first 3 quarters of this game, because if he is determined to just take the sack, throw the ball away, let drives die, then Seattle's going to win this one with margin. So Seattle for me, my fare on this one is I make them about a 55% chance to win, so I'm getting plus money on that. I like it. I'm riding out a lot of optimism here on the Seahawks with kind of to win the West and just in general to be in the playoff mix. But this is another solid matchup for them, and the market's still not willing to kind of properly, kind of grade what's going on in Arizona in terms of the deterioration of that whole system.
Yeah, 20 sacks, I think, for Kyler Murray this season, which is when you consider how evasive he is. So it'll be interesting on that play. PJ Walker has arrived in the comments. You'll be glad to know. Suma, Pete Carroll is 71 years of age. Someone's writing here, 16.0 coach of the year, but he is doing some job with the Seahawks here, but you're kind of not quite as bullish as the lads, but you have a very, very small lead towards the Hawks here.
Yes, I mean, I could not see this coming, to be honest. I really thought that the defense would not be good because they didn't have the talent. Now all those rookies are playing excellent right now. I also never saw like this Geno Smith redemption coming. But to be honest, we can argue that their run game is more like a boom or bust affair, but their passing game, I mean, here are some numbers about Geno Smith. 6th in EPA per dropback, 0.192. 6th in success rate, 51.5%. 1st in completion percentage above expectation, and 3rd in PFF passing rate. I mean, he's really good and consistent. There's like nothing fluky about this passing offense. The offensive line is holding up quite well. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, good you, great passing game, great design. Going back to that first game between the Cards and the Seahawks closed as 2.5 dogs at home. So we also already saw the market making that adjustment. But I also think that Brad and Drew made a very good point that there might be the potential that the market is too slowly catching up with the Seahawks. Because what I also find interesting about this game is when it comes to modeling, you somehow have some priors built into your model, like how good has Kyler Murray always been, especially alongside DeAndre Hopkins. how much do you adjust your priors of Geno Smith or his career average towards the current season? And I think everyone who values this current season a little bit higher and doesn't fully trust the Cardinals offense will probably be on the Seahawks side here. So that game is very interesting from that point of view. And what I also wanted to add is that in the first game, the Cardinals did a very good job against that Seahawks offense, especially in the red zone. But however, the Seahawks also had 5 drives inside the Cardinals' 21-yard line and settled 4 times with field goals. So, I mean, even in the first game, the Seahawks were not bad at moving the ball, even though the box score didn't point towards them having a great game. Overall, I also lean slightly towards the Hawks, especially when we look at the injury reports for the Cards right now. I don't have an update on today's injury report yet, but yesterday it looked like they could be without 4 starting offensive linemen potentially. DJ Humphries might be back, but Rodney Hudson is already ruled out. Justin Pugh on IR, Max Garcia, DJ Humphries DNP yesterday. We'll see about the injury report, but overall, it's not really looking great to lay the points with the Cards here, in my opinion.
Yeah, Drew, jump back in there. You have a final thought.
Yeah, I'm super glad, Suma, you brought up the last game in the Seahawks offense, because as a money line backer on the Seahawks that day, it was frustrating. It was like, these guys should be up by, for multiple touchdowns. This shouldn't even be in question. They ultimately get it done, and so everybody forgets about it. But they were very, they were clearly the better team on that day, I thought. It's funny because last week we were very pro Cardinals. I was on the same page as Suma. I thought they were a good bet against the Vikings. I bet I bet Cardinals points. I bet the money line. And I really kind of saw that as sort of the pivot point for their season. Like, if they win that game, then, maybe they get together and they're like, all right, we got 2 wins. We're right in the thick of this still for the NFC West. We are not quitting on our coach. We're not giving up on this season. And then not only did they lose, but the way they lost with all those turnovers, especially late in the game, I honestly, like that, if you need a narrative, if you want to know why I'm so easily walking away from any kind of positive feelings about the Cardinals, that was the pivot point. They failed the test, and now I think they move into what do we have to do to get Cliff Kingsbury out of here?
Yeah, I think we'll lock this in, guys, as an official bet on the podcast. Seahawks 2.14 above even money currently, above 11-10 currently on Matchbook. So we'll lock that in as an official bet. And we'll move on to the second game we're going to cover. And we'll go to you, Suma, on this one first and just quickly take a look at the betting. The Rams are currently 2.34. Bucs are 1.69. The point spread gives Rams a 2.5 head start, and the total is 42.5. Suma, it's the last 2 Super Bowl champions. This should be like a pre-playoff game. We should be absolutely excited for this. I nearly thought twice about putting it in the running order, which just says it all, really. Oh, we're muted there, Suma. Sorry, come in again.
Sorry, always
No,
the
grand.
same with me. If you told me that, I think the Rams are 3-5. Is that correct?
Yeah, 3 and 4.
3 and 4. If you told me that the Rams and Bucs will have a combined 6 wins when they meet this season, I would have called you crazy.
6 and 9.
Yeah, we are really talking about 2 struggling offenses, which is probably be the weirdest part about all of that. I mean, defense is always very volatile, especially from week to week, season to season. Injuries can have a huge impact on that side, but it's really crazy that both offenses have been struggling so massively. When it comes to this game, I think I like the matchup for the Rams a little bit more here. I mean, hashtag Cooper Cup watch. He should be able to play for the Rams in order to have success. I mean, Sean McVay said that Cooper Cup is expected to play. So unless something wild happens with his ankle, maybe some bigger swelling or something, we should expect Cooper Cup to be in. But overall, I think if the Rams cannot get back on track or somewhat back on track against this Bucs or the current state of this Bucs defense, I don't know which team they can get back on track on, because the Bucs defense lost Shaquille Barrett, arguably their best defensive lineman. But even with Shaquille Barrett, they ranked 30th in PFF pass rushing grade. So not a great start to begin with. The mighty Bucs run defense is also not what it used to be. And I look at the second half of this current season and started after the Chiefs game, because the Bucs defense got absolutely rocked there. And since that Seahawks game, they rank 18th in EPA per dropback after playing Marcus Mariota, a mix of Kenny Pickett and Mitchell Trubisky, PJ Walker, and Lamar Jackson, who lost Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews during the game. So I really think that this current Bucs defense, who might also be without Antoine Winfield again, is not really good right now. And they cannot really apply pressure. The Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay offense has been much better without pressure. We all know that. And they have also been quite better against the blitz. So maybe Todd Bowles thinks that his recipe against this Bucs Rams offense has to be calling blitzes. That would probably also favor the Rams offense a little bit here. And on the other side, I mean, the interior offensive line of the Buccaneers is not good this year, going against Aaron Donald. Tom Brady has always kind of struggled a little bit against strong interior pressure. The Rams defense also one of the best against the run. And Byron Leftwich repeatedly said in his presser today that they have to call better runs, run the ball better, because that really helps your play action game. And right now, I don't think that they will be highly successful doing that against this Rams rush defense. So, yeah, I think if Cooper Kupp is ready to go, this should probably be closer towards below 3 than the Bucs laying a field goal here.
Yeah, Suma touched on the Cooper Kupp injury. As he said, the quote is expected to play, Brad. I think he will be playing. You're finding this game tough to call reading into it, but you're going to kind of see how it sets up and then maybe take a bit of the Bucs.
Yeah, sorry. I could only go the Bucs side of this. One, the Kupp injury is huge, right? I mean, they can't move the ball anyway. And so now they've got a guy, he's clearly not going to be 100%. Some of these sort of fantasy doctors out there saying maybe a 10% performance hit based on historical data, maybe like 20% re-injury chance. So, I mean, if there is a 20% re-injury chance and Kupp leaves the game, like, they will lose the game, because like Allen Robinson is not scaring you, Skoronek's not scaring you. They've got nothing else. And so another way to look at this, another way to get at this, again, Sean McVay's script is pretty solid. But if you take out the first quarter, saw all NFL offenses by EPA in the final 3 quarters, do you know who is dead last in the NFL? It's the LA Rams. So I kind of like jumping on board the Bucs. You might get them at an underdog price, given what the line is currently, if the Rams come out to score early. I mean, they did it last week, two touchdown drives against the 49ers off the bye, and then just absolutely nothing the rest of the time. And I kind of think the Bucs will be all right moving the ball. The Rams, obviously, they've got Aaron Donald, but they're also still 31st in pressure rate this year. So they've got no one else doing any damage back there or on that defensive line. So, yeah, I think if you want to go and lay 2.5 for the Bucs, I don't think that's a bad bet now. But I think if you wait, you'll get an underdog price, and I think that's probably a more valuable bet.
Drew, we'll hand over to you as a sort of mediator, and I know you're going to play the over here. So you've already played the over, but I do want to sort of quick on the Rams versus Bucs, taking some of Brad's points there with the potential of re-injury and stuff like that with Cooper Kupp. That's obviously a massive, it's a massive turning point in this game. If he gets injured during the game, it's over. Like.
Oh, without question. I mean, Cooper Kupp is their most important piece, and it's not close. I mean, more than even Matt Stafford, I would have to say at this point. But the key, and I guess the issue here for me is if you could tell me that for sure the Bucs secondary was going to be there, they were going to be healthy, and that they were going to be anywhere close to the level we saw that secondary performing through the first 3 weeks of the season, then this is a slam dunk the Bucs. Don't even think it. Don't even try to make any sense of any other aspect of this handicap, because the Buccaneers clearly if their defense was performing above average, then they have a perfect matchup against a Rams team that is not only ailing with their most important player, has a weak offensive line, and has just shown no other ability to innovate so far this season. And so it would have been kind of the perfect opportunity to back the Bucs, in my opinion, if they had a healthy secondary. But in the absence of that, and also in the absence of Shaq Barrett, I think realistically, I don't know what you're going to get in terms of a score output from the Rams, but expecting it to get into the 20s as a median expectation, I think, is completely realistic. So at that point, the question is, what do the Bucs do to answer? And I think they have a decent matchup with a healthy Godwin. Godwin looks dynamic. He looks like he's got some of his pop back. Evans, of course, not quite on the same page as Brady the last couple of weeks, but is still, you have two weapons and you can only use Ramsey on one of those two in terms of taking them out of the game plan. It is worth noting that, again, Todd Bowles' plan A that we saw twice last year with his defense against the Rams offense was to blitz, to be aggressive with the pass rush, and to really kind of try to make Matt Stafford uncomfortable. It worked very poorly both times. And I think so far this season, we have seen that strategy work. San Francisco, most notably, has pulled that off. And so, again, if you had a full strength Buccaneers team, this is clearly Bucs with margin, in my opinion. Now, as currently rostered, I think you have a huge pivot here with the Bucs from being a clear under team to a clear over team, on top of the fact that I think, Rams getting their center back matters. Bucs not being able to generate a pass rush matters. Bucs not being able to stop the run is surprising, but matters. And I think this could turn into a little bit more of an offensive contest, surely more than the market thinks. I mean, 42.5 is about as low a price point as you ever possibly could have imagined. These two teams played in the regular season last year, and I think the total closed 55. I'm not expecting 55 points in this one, but my fair price is about 46 here. So happy to be on the other side of 44. Give me over 42.5, and one of my favorite totals of the week.
Interesting. Brad, jump back in.
I'll just say the Bucs secondary is looking healthier. Antoine Winfield practiced today. Sean Murphy Bunting, the corner, practiced today. Akeem Hicks in the defensive line practiced today. I think they're as healthy as they've been over the last 3 games or so. And I think maybe Hicks can make up for the loss of Shaq Barrett.
And any quick opinion on the total there, Brad? Were you looking at that at all? 42.5?
No, no view at all, really. No view.
Suma, any view on the total before I lock Drew's in? Because Drew was very confident.
No strong opinion, but Drew's on a roll, so we can go with that.
That's all I needed, Suma. That's all I needed. We'll lock in over 42.5, 1.95 as an official bet on the podcast. But Brad and Suma taking opposite views on how this game. It is going to be a very unpredictable game, that's for sure. But I am looking forward to it. We'll move on to the third game, Ravens at the Saints, Monday Night Football. Let's take a look at the betting first, as we have it at Matchbook.com. You can back the Ravens at 1.74. The Saints are 2.22. The Saints are given a 2.5 head start at 1.97, and the total is 47.5. Suma, this is the first meeting between these sides since 2018. The quarterbacks back then, Joe Flacco, Drew Brees. Justin Tucker missed his first ever, I think it was a field goal at the end to tie the game. So it's a lot has changed with these teams over the last few years. A lot has changed with these teams, particularly the Saints, over the last couple of weeks.
This game is really, really tough for me. So on the one hand side, we gotta watch the injury report. Marshawn Lattimore was not practicing today, which I think with his oblique injury is kind of a deep concern right now. Michael Thomas will not be back this season at all. Jarvis Landry started practicing today, but didn't finish. So we are probably looking at the same health status as last week. And the Saints are a really fascinating team to me because their offense with Andy Dalton is much better than expected. And the defense has kind of the up and down games. Like they looked very bad without a pass rush for weeks. And then all of a sudden they shut out the Las Vegas Raiders. So how sustainable was that single performance? Was it that the Saints suddenly do something differently on defense, or was it just the Raiders not being on the same page throughout 4 quarters? Very tough game to handicap, in my opinion. On the Ravens side, Mark Andrews DNP today. Don't know whether he's going to play. And if Lamar Jackson does not have Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews on the road at New Orleans, this could be a long game for their offense, even though I think they will likely be able to run the ball. But that passing game without Bateman and Andrews would clearly have a low ceiling.
Yeah, for you, Drew, it's either unders or pass on this one.
Yeah, and I may ultimately add the under, especially if if it's 47.5 and we get any kind of indication that Mark Andrews is not going, then my fare on this is like closer to 46. I think that a one-dimensional offense that the Ravens are bringing into this contest kind of plays right into sort of the strength of what Dennis Allen can do as far as a head coach and a defensive mind. And I think while we have seen ups and downs from the Saints overall defensively this season, dealing with something one-dimensional is a lot easier than dealing with the running threat of Kyler Murray with the addition of Hopkins back and not really knowing what that offense was going to look like. And so this is a good setup for the Saints defense to continue what's been a pretty coming off a shutout of the Raiders. That was that wasn't entirely Raiders based. That was some good defensive scheming by the Saints. And Saints, I don't think, are completely out of the mix of a playoff spot. The NFC South still completely up for grabs. And it was interesting and surprising and a little confusing to see what the Ravens did at the trade deadline, even considering that they were going to get two pass rushers, or at least, a pass rusher and Bowser and a linebacker and Ojabo off of the IR. They still went and gave away future assets for a rental for Roquan Smith. And it's like, they've invested so much of their vision of how they want to build this team is investing on the defensive side of the ball. And Lamar Jackson is left to do it all alone. And it's wild to see. It worked out that he was able to come back against the Bucs. We haven't seen him have to come back much in the NFL this season. But if they're getting crisp production out of their offense in any way, shape, or form, and he's in a detrimental spot in this game and asked to come back without Andrews, without any weapons in the passing game, I'm not sure he can do it twice. And I would expect to see Saints be relatively live in this one as a dog. I would have rather had the 3. I didn't get it, so I passed on the side. I'll probably ultimately play this under 47.5, so I don't miss that before we get more news about the offense for the Ravens injury status.
Yeah, Brad, on that 3, if it got to 3, this would be a play for you on the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, if Andrews doesn't go as well, I would bet the Saints money line or first half. You probably get plus a half on that as well, and I think that'd be quite valuable as well. 2 stats to me that kind of make me think the Saints are the side. One is the Ravens offense with Rashad Bateman on the field, 7.9 yards per play, 0.28 expected points per drop back. So that would be best in the league by miles. Without Rashad Bateman on the field, 5.4 yards per play, so they're losing about 2.5 yards, and minus 0.08. So an enormous drop off just taking your best receiver off the field, which obviously, I mean, that's kind of the story of the season in a way. Look at Jamar Chase, what you take him away from the Bengals. You look at adding Tyreek or AJ Brown to their team. Like, an alpha receiver is hugely important. And then, especially if your wide receiver 1 is Devin Duvernay, like, he's a decent gadget player. He's sort of fast, but he's in no way meant to be carrying a passing offense. And if Andrews is out as well, then you've got Lamar and you've got absolutely nothing else. And meanwhile, Andy Dalton, seventh in the league in adjusted EPA per play, 3rd in success rate among quarterbacks, behind Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Is
not bad.
Yeah, so I mean, whatever they're doing over there in New Orleans is absolutely working, and he's been doing that with the receivers he'll have this week. Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave. That's who he's been doing it with. He's not had the other guys that are going to be out. So yeah, I kind of think the Saints should be maybe a slight favourite here. So yeah, money line or first half plus a half, something like that would be the way to play it, I think.
Yeah, well, we lock in 2.22 on the money line then, Brad, at the Saints. I think it's a good price. Let's do it. Let's lock that in. Saints 2.22 on the money line as they host the Ravens on Monday Night Football. We'll move on to the 4th game, and it's the Chargers at the Falcons. The mighty Chargers are still in the hunt, rest assured. Chargers are 1.67, Falcons 2.4. The point spread gives Falcons a 3-point head start at 1.9, and the total is 49.5, and that's a good bit shaded to the under at 1.99. Suma, Chargers, they were dealt a blow there. I think Keenan Allen was expected to play, so I think looking at that injury report and to see that he didn't take part in Wednesday's practice, I don't think that's a good sign here. And it's probably scaring you away from the Chargers a bit here.
Yeah, I still like the Chargers a bit here, but that Keenan Allen injury, I mean, he was really supposed to play. He did something in the Seahawks game, and the timeline for his hamstring injury really fit together with him being basically fully healthy this week. And then all of a sudden on that Monday, walk through DNP, and then the news came out, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday that he got another setback. I mean, the Chargers were basically without Keenan Allen for 90% of the season right now, so they are almost getting used to it. I think when we look at this matchup, we at first think about the rushing matchup of the Falcons, one of the most prominent run teams in the league against the Chargers defense that has looked very poorly over the past 2 years under Brandon Staley against the run. We know that the Falcons will run the ball. They want to run the ball basically no matter what the game state is for Arthur Smith. He wants to run the ball, but they are not really an elite rushing offense when we look at some of the efficiency metrics. They are good, but they are, in terms of EPA per play and success rate and stuff, they are like barely sneaking into the top 10. I think they are 12th in EPA per play, 11th in success rate. They have a negative EPA per rush attempt, so it's not like they are world beaters on the ground. And the Chargers defense, yes, they still have some issues against the run, especially on big plays. They are giving up big plays at an above average rate. That's why their EPA per play rate, per play number against the rush is only 27th in the league. But they actually rank 9th in success rate, and they played an above average schedule. So they are not giving up consistent gains on the ground, just the occasional big play. For example, Kenneth Walker late in the fourth quarter. I think Nick Chubb had a long run. Damian Pierce had a very long one, over 75 yards. They are giving up some big plays on the ground, but on a down-to-down basis, this defense is very much improved from last year. On the other side, Justin Herbert should now finally be completely healthy. The offensive line is dealing with injuries, but they are getting the absolute worst pass rush and maybe the worst defense in the league right now. And I don't really think that it really matters whether AJ Terrell will play or not, because he's not having a great season and he's only one player out of 11. And those other 10 players are really not playing well. The Falcons might be the worst defense along with the Lions right now. They have 0 pass rush. They are also bottom 3 against the run. So the Chargers, in my opinion, will also have a very decent matchup on the ground this time. And then I think in the end, it still comes down to which team will get more done in the passing game. I trust the Chargers defense more than I trust the Falcons defense. And I also trust Justin Herbert and that passing attack a little bit more than Marcus Mariota and company. So I think that -3 is completely reasonable. It ticked down after that Keenan Allen news. But I would still be a little bit surprised if we saw some 2.5s at some point this week.
Yeah, it was 3.5 to that Keenan Allen news. PJ Walker says in the comments the Falcons are poor defending the 62-yard pass, and that is for sure after last week. Drew, I guess the big thing coming into this game, obviously Keenan Allen's a massive blow, but Chargers coming off that bye, you think they'll be able to sort out that rush defense problems that they've had issues with all year, really?
Yeah, no, and I think Suma actually framed that well, which is the rush defense issues for the Chargers are more about the home run play and less about the down-to-down stuff. But I think even more than that, the question I have is how are the Chargers stopping the Falcons from getting? How are the Falcons stopping the Chargers from getting to 30 points in this one? I had this one circled for months. I guess months may be wrong. How long ago was week 2? When Justin Herbert got hurt with the rib injury, I was like, man, this is, forget about betting the Chargers on all of these games. Don't even think about it. And then look at that coming off the bye. They get the Falcons. If the Falcons are struggling at all defensively at that time, that is a really nice kind of re-entry point to kind of buy low on Justin Herbert, because I still do very sincerely believe he's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. And does it matter that Mike Williams isn't available? Absolutely. Does it matter that Keenan Allen isn't available? Absolutely. But I believe enough in the talent of Herbert to elevate the play of guys like Palmer, guys like Carter, guys like Gerald Everett, even Eckler. I mean, like that's a foursome that with Herbert should be able to be absolutely dynamic against the defense that, as Suma mentioned, can't rush the passer, has a cluster injury going on at cornerback. Now, if AJ Terrell plays, okay, I'm a little more concerned, but expecting him to be anywhere close to peak performances, asking a lot considering the injury he's dealing with. So very confident here that the Chargers are going to get theirs, and it just comes down to a question of, can they put the Falcons in a negative game state where they are forced to put the ball into Marcus Mariota's hands instead of just running? And at that point, let Derwin James, let Callahan and some of the elite pieces in that secondary kind of do their thing and take away the ball, create some defensive short fields. I mean, this feels like as good of a buy low as you're going to have on a team that is elite and that I can think of in weeks. And it is almost entirely based on the health of their quarterback.
Yeah, Brad, any opinions on this or even the Chargers in general going forward?
No, I'll say that the 5-game stretch for Herbert since that rib injury has been his worst 5-game stretch of his career by EPA. So you would probably think that is related to the rib injury. I mean, obviously they've had injuries at center, right tackle, left tackle, and wide receiver. So that's probably all playing into it as well. But it's tough. I mean, I know they've got Eckler, but they are rolling. I was going on about the importance of wide receivers. They're trotting out Palmer, who's not good. Then DeAndre Carter, Michael Bandy, and Jason Moore. That's the top 4 wideouts on the depth chart, and that does scare me. Like, people in the chat are going, "Oh, they made the Panthers look good last week." Well, DJ Moore is good, and PJ Walker's uncorking 67-yard air passes. So they are, that is an actual threat, unlike Josh Palmer. So yeah, it's not for me. I'm not sure I want to be laying 3 points with that set of wideouts.
Yeah, you've been known as the master of disagreement in the comments in the chat, so it's good to see we're building slowly into that, Brad. I am a Chargers fan, Brad. You might not know this, so I will. It doesn't take much to convince me to finally take the Chargers. It's tough to even get them on the run sheet, to be honest, let alone get a pick. So Chargers -3 at over evens. Justin Herbert to sail over, and Chargers to do enough to cover there. We'll do a quick recap of bets that we have at the moment. We have the Chargers -3, as I touched on. We have the over in the Rams at the Bucs, and then we have money line bets on the Saints and the Seahawks. I think I have that correct. But a full recap when I get around to doing this properly is on Matchbook Insights or insights.matchbook.com. That'll be up Friday afternoon. And if you need a full recap, or even if you've forgotten some of the bets at about 5 to 6 on Sunday ahead of Red Zone, do check out Matchbook Insights, where you'll have all the guys' picks. So we'll go to any other bets here. Drew, I'll go to you for this. You like an overplay here, the Dolphins at the Bears.
Yeah, I'll take an over here. Basically, just expecting that what we've seen from the Bears in terms of improvement offensively is related to the development of Justin Fields, related to having a good coach and coordinator going on up in Chicago. And I think that they're taking on a Dolphins team that, yes, they have just added a pass rusher, but can still be beaten by a mobile quarterback. And then you flip the script here. The Bears have just completely gutted their roster in terms of defensive talent. They have one decent cornerback that they can maybe cover Hill or Waddle, and I think McDaniel's his scheme has been unbelievable so far this year. I think he can scheme his way to the Dolphins getting into the 30s. This has a lot more of the feel of what we saw last week between the Cowboys and the Bears, in my opinion. And I was kind of shocked that this was under 47. So over 45.5, and all of the moves made at the deadline just made it that much sweeter.
Suma, talk to us about what have you got for us in the any other bet section?
Yeah, so very slow week for me. So I'm bringing some teaser looks here. I like the Saints teased up to 8, and I also like the Seahawks teased up to 8. I mean, with the Saints, we don't have the perfect total for a wrong teaser rule at 49.5 currently. But also, I'm really struggling to see how the Cardinals beat the current state of the Seahawks offense by 9 or more points here. So, that's something to think about, to sprinkle into your card for Sunday, some teaser action.
Yeah, bonus stuff on the Matchbook Betting Podcast. Teasers from Suma. quickly, I'll just point you in the direction of our new sign-up offer at Matchbook. If you enter the bonus code Matchbook NFL and you bet £30 on the NFL, you'll get a £10 free bet for the next 3 weeks of the NFL. So if you fancy a best bet on the guys' bets here, you can use it then. You can roll those £10 free bets over the next 3 weeks and use it on Red Zone if you want to do. You can also do multiples on Matchbook at the moment with NFL, and they've been proven quite popular this season. So that, to remind you of the bonus code, it's Matchbook NFL, bet £30 and get £30 in best bets, or in free bets. Sorry, I was getting confused there because I will be moving on to best bets time. And Brad, the pressure's on here. I think you've come in here, a lot of people in the comments loving having you back, the master of disagreement. But tell us why the Panthers and PJ Walker can get it done and cover, and well, with the plus at plus 7.0 at Bengals at 2.0.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so one, we've spoken a little bit about how important I think having or losing a wide receiver one in chases, because now, you know, even last week I think there was a lot of talk of Higgins, Tyler Boyd, they'll be fine, but the way the Browns played them, they clearly were not scared of them. You know, they didn't. All year long, teams have been playing the Bengals with 2 deep safeties, but the Browns said, "Nah, we're not scared of getting beat deep anymore." So they just left one safety up there a lot of the time, brought the other one down into the box, clogged them up over the middle of the field, and the Bengals looked absolutely awful. You know, the offensive line is still bad, and that really was how they made their living last year, and in the good games this year was just, you know, deep passes, like go balls to Chase. You know, he was averaging 10 yards per attempt to Chase and like 7 yards to everyone else. So I think you take that away and the Bengals kind of suddenly don't have an offensive identity. And then on the defensive side, this defense again for the last year and a half has been all about coverage. You know, the pass rush is not good, but they sort of get there after 3 seconds because the coverage is so good. Now they lose Chidobe Awuzie, one, you know, basically probably their best corner. They're also banged up other spots in the secondary. And so I just don't think this Bengals team is very good at all. And then you've got Panthers team they kind of feel like they've got nothing to lose now. PJ Walker is the 9th graded quarterback in the NFL. You know, we've seen he's got arm talent. And he was talking before last week's game. He was like, I swore to myself, if I ever get another chance in the NFL, like I'd let it all hang out. I'd just have a swing, basically, have a home run swing. And I think we're kind of seeing that now. He's just taking shots. He's got DJ Moore, an elite deep receiver, and they're just going for it. And this Bengals pass rush, as I say, is nothing. And I'm not sure they've got anyone that can cover DJ Moore. So in this kind of modern NFL where every game seems to come down to the last drive to one possession, I think you actually look at these players on these teams, there's not a huge difference in them, in my opinion.
Yeah, and PJ Walker has been in the comments. He's very impressed with you, Brad. VIP feel passes for Brad Allen. I thought I liked this new guy, but he doesn't know why you're taking the money line though. Yeah, would you be tempted at the money line with Panthers when you're making a bet like this, Brad? Just quickly, so your cover. I know you mentioned plus 7.5. There's plus 7.0 at the moment. Would you have a small saver on the money line for want of a better word? Or?
I had the Panthers money line last Sunday, and that was a good fun journey. Thank you to DJ Moore. But yeah, I think I do think it's worth taking it. I don't think there's a lot of difference in these teams.
There you go, PJ. You've heard it here. So, Drew, we'll go over to you for your best bets. You've been on fire at the moment on the NFL Matchbook podcast. So take it away. Yeah, and I mean, Patriots.
Yeah, Brad and PJ Walker got me convinced. Although I'm a little concerned that PJ Walker is chatting and not preparing. But outside of that, you know, I do think the Panthers have a decent chance. I'm going to take a crack with the Patriots at the current minus 4.5. This is a contrarian play, surely. Mac Jones has been horrific this year, and he's having his confidence shaken from within the building, and all of that is a problem. But I do think you are buying low on him in general against a team in the Colts that not only is sort of tearing it down in terms of what they're doing with their personnel, but you know, they're starting Sam Ehlinger seemingly in spite of what the coach wants to do. So you have a huge disconnect here in terms of what the Colts want to be offensively. They're going up against the Belichick coordinated defense. That is a recipe for disaster. I think the Patriots can cover this number predominantly on the strength of their defense, and then whatever you get out of them offensively is gravy, much like what we saw from them last week against the Jets. The Colts in general, they match up well in theory against the Patriots team that does not defend the run well. But Jonathan Taylor is banged up. They just traded away Naheem Hines. I think that actually is a bigger minus for the Colts than it is a plus for the Bills. But Patriots here getting an opportunity to kind of right the ship this season against two opponents who are just absolutely struggling at the quarterback position. Last week against the Jets, this week against the Colts. They get a bye to continue to get right, and they get the Jets again. This could be the run that they needed to really kind of put their season back on track and even threaten for a playoff spot. I recognize Mac Jones has been a disaster this season. I don't know what's going on with him ultimately, but I do think this is as good of a time as ever to buy low because that the market has completely sold any kind of hope that he is a good quarterback, and I think that there is still a guy in there that can manage an offense against a Colts defense that is missing a lot of its biggest talent and/or just getting way below expected performance out of some of their key pieces. So Patriots for me at -4.5, favorite look on the card.
Yeah, -4.5 now, and the current price at Matchbook is 1.94. Hosting the Colts. Suma, if the best bet's cursed, it's going to end this week. I've seen a comment in there saying as much. Where with this now, is it as simple as, right, the Jags have let me down so many times, let's just back against the Jags, or is there a bit of substance behind this pick?
Yeah, completely off the Jags train and trying to go for regression to the mean today, this week. I think this is a great bounce back situation for the Raiders against Leonard. Absolutely. I think this is a great situation for the Raiders to bounce back, especially for their offense. I watched that game in the All-22 and it was crazy how completely the Saints destroyed the Raiders' rushing offense. When the Raiders started a series of downs with a run, they had a 33 series success rate, which is absolutely horrible. Devontae Adams, he saw some bracket coverage from the Saints, but I don't really know on some plays whether he was really healthy or whether that illness was getting to him. I don't know. There were some routes where it seemed like he didn't know where he was running to. Like, it was really a completely weird performance from the Raiders offense. Now they're going against a Jaguars defense that is absolutely declining since their game against the Chargers. They caught the Colts without several key players on offense and Matt Ryan. They caught the Chargers when Justin Herbert was barely able to play after that rib cartilage injury, where he also lost Corey Linsley early in the game. Keenan Allen was out. And since then, the Jaguars defense really ranks bottom 10. They also got significantly worse against the run. And I think this is a good spot for the Raiders to get their run game going, to throw short underneath stuff, which is basically the stuff that the Colts absolutely hammered the Jags defense 3 weeks ago. And the Raiders have a somewhat okay, solid run defense. You can beat them against their secondary, but the Jaguars haven't really been shown us a consistent passing game that should be able to attack those cornerbacks all game long. So overall, it comes down for me that I have a higher rating on the Raiders offense in a good spot against a declining Jaguars defense.
Yeah, some support for in the comments, Suma. Mad pick from Suma from two dire teams, love it. And then the revenge play from Suma to take on the Jags, perhaps. We're done. Brad, thanks a mil for coming on. Did you enjoy it?
Anytime, chaps. Yeah, always enjoy chatting football with some smart folks.
Yeah, Suma, thanks as always.
All right, guys. Let's have a good Sunday this week. Also,
Yes.
Greetings in the comments.
Yes. Drew, final word to you.
Hey, best luck to us. This was a fun show as always, and I love that we're basically rowing the boat again together, and that's always a good sign. So let's get some winners.
Let's get some winners. Week 9 winners, and we're almost halfway through the NFL, which is brilliant. So if you are watching the video, do hit that thumbs up, leave a comment on your best bet. Matchbook Insights, the place to go, insights.matchbook.com. We'll be back next week to maybe do perhaps a mid-season preview, but more of that on our social channels. But for now, enjoy the football, take care, and we'll chat to you next week. Bye-bye.